Right, starting the recording. This is episode 438 of the OotiniCast, being recorded on April 26th. And let's see, looks like the stream's going fine, so we can do that there. It's just me today. Kitty is sick, and we're not sure exactly how long he'll be sick, so we figured, you know what, let's just go ahead and have me do it solo today. I've done it before, and a few times, and it's always more fun with someone else, but you know what? We're gonna have fun anyway. This is gonna be the raw version of the show with all flubs and errors and anything else that happens still intact, and then we will take the audio recording, clean it up, and it'll be a podcast starting tomorrow. We'll also put the raw version of this up on YouTube. Yeah, I know he's not feeling well. I'll go over the explanation once we start the actual show, but yeah, it's unfortunate. Let me go ahead and... Nope, that's not Twitter. There's Twitter. Let me go ahead and get this tweeted out, and we should be ready to go pretty much right at the top of the hour. All right. OotiniCast. There we go. And we'll get this retweeted and pretty much get going after that. No reason not to. All right. So it might be a little bit shorter than usual, but you know, it'll be mostly a normal episode. We're going to skip a couple of segments, and I've got a couple of other things that I can do in addition. It's all good. So yeah, so we do hope that Kitty feels better soon, and I'll go over the explanation as to how why he's not here as soon as we get going on the real one. And let's see, yeah, we're basically at the top of the hour, so I think we're ready to go. All right. So let me get back to the top of the show notes, and there we go. Going in 5. Hi, and welcome to the OotiniCast, the podcast that needs to send word to the Alliance. This is episode 438, being recorded on Tuesday, April 26, 2022. I'm your host, Chill, and KittyKissz is unfortunately not here today. So it's just me today, a rare solo adventure out into Ootini land. Kitty, unfortunately, is ill in a way that is affecting his ability to speak. It sounded like he was doing some work around, I guess, his house or something. He said he was pulling up some carpets and doing some other sort of, labor that was kicking up a bunch of dust and crud and who knows what else. And he's feeling awful, and also his ability to speak is not really there today. So I'm just going to do this solo, and we're going to go from there. We all hope that Kitty is feeling better soon, and I'm sure we'll see him by the next episode. So if you see him tweet out anything, or if you see him streamed, like say tomorrow, great, and let him know that we're happy that he's feeling better, or send his best wishes if not. So there we go. We just started out, so it might be a little early to do the shout out to the chat room, but we do have some folks already here. Bo Froley, Smooth Wolf, DL Smooth Wolf is here, Psychum is here. So let's see, it's a lot shorter than usual because we've just started here. So all right, let me go ahead and let me see. Also, I need to get back into the chat room here. How do we do that? There we go. Shardbova as well. Hey. All right. So what I've been doing since last episode, I finished up my tank gearing. I now have augmented 326 gear for my damage mains, and also now my tank mains. The tank gear came really fast. I think as of the last show, I had already opened some boxes and I'd gotten most of it together. Well, I managed to get the other couple pieces, mostly by actually just getting 320s and just actually leveling them up rather than waiting for the random box to come around. So that actually worked pretty well. It was a lot simpler than trying to open up as many boxes as I can and hoping I get the right ones. That just isn't a great way to get that last piece or two that you actually need. All augmented up. I did have the augments from 6.0, and since crew skills have not been updated yet, they've said that they're probably going to be doing it later in the expansion. We don't have a timeline on it though, so the augments are still valid, still the best ones in the game. Now I am talking about the regular crafting ones and not the special ones that they did add sort of towards the end of 6.0. Those I don't have yet. We'll work on that probably slowly as we get going, but I'm not too worried about right now. So I've been leveling up my tanks to actually use this gear. Corbin Dallas is now maxed out. He's using that endgame gear, and he's on chapter 2 of Kotet, and that's going pretty well. It's actually a lot of fun to have it was a big jump. Like when he went from 79 to 80, and I was able to get him the 326 gear. Yeah, it made a huge difference. Like all of a sudden his damage is sort of reasonable, and of course his tankiness went up, and the implant buffs are good, not great. I like one of them really well. It's actually a shield every time you use energy yield, which is a 1 minute mostly defensive cooldown with a little bit of offensive aspects as well. And the special implant that relates to that is when you use energy yield, you get a 3-second shield. I don't know whether to believe the number or not, because the number on the hover is like, it's a huge amount of damage you can shield in 3 seconds. It's kind of like it would take like a boss mechanic to get through it, sort of thing. It's like crazy. So basically you're almost kind of semi-invulnerable for 3 seconds when you use energy yield. At least it feels that way, assuming that number is right. And I've never had the shield be broken yet, but that's, since we're just doing like story mode kind of stuff, maybe that's not the best way to actually determine whether that's the case or not. The other one is, I did decide to go with the tank one. I was looking at some other ones because the tank one didn't really excite me, but we ended up going with it. Basically what it is when you're using your energy shield, which is like that sort of semi-generic defensive cooldown every 2 minutes. It lasts for like 15 seconds, and it gives you like 25% more defense, essentially. It's a little more involved than that, but not much. And what this other implant buff does is when you take damage and you have the shield going, then your allies around you get a shield. It doesn't say how big it is. I assume it's a damage shield and not a % defense shield, but I could be wrong. I do notice that it does work. Like I've been able to put up my shield ability, and then when I take damage, my companion gets this little buff that that seems to last not very long, like maybe a second or so, but it is something, and it does seem to be relatively useful. And I decided I wasn't willing to go to a damage one and give up the tanking stats, so there was that aspect of it as well. So we ended up, I'm pretty happy with the gear, and yeah, so Corbin is on chapter 2 of Kotet. He's all the way through Kotvi. And Lilu is on Makeb. She's about level 60, and that's going well too. I actually have the XP gear on her, so she's leveling fast, just because I want to be able to have both of my both sides tankable relatively soon. So we're trying to get her up to 80 pretty soon as well, and that's going pretty well. I do have Thor. He's a juggernaut now, and he's actually a warrior story-wise. Like, I've been having a lot of fun in 7.0, like mixing it up, where I've got one story, but I've got the abilities of someone from another class, and that's actually been it's actually added a lot of interest for me. Like Corbin, for example, is a smuggler, but he's a tank, which you can't be a tank normally if you're a smuggler. Now you can, and I've been enjoying just sort of seeing those little differences and details. In this case, though, Thor is a juggernaut, and I guess I could have made him like one of the other stories, but it just kind of made the most sense for him to do the warrior story. So I'm taking him through the warrior story. I'm pretty happy with how he looks. Right now he's in the Rage spec, and I'll probably try the other two specs later to see if they feel more Thunder God-y, basically. He's on Act 2 right now, and I think at level 60 you get like another active ability. I think that'll be far enough through the track that I can then swap to the tanking one and the other damage one. and we can try those out and sort of see. Pretty happy with the rage spec for him, though. When you use the smash ability, then there is a bunch of lightning that comes up all around you. It's red lightning, but it's still lightning. And yeah, that's been a lot of fun. I've got him with the Marauder's Mace, sort of as the stand-in for Mjolnir. It seems to be, as far as I know, it's the only sort of blunt weapon in the game. I've been looking for a Gamorrean axe, but they're really hard to find right now. I haven't seen one on, the GTN at all. And I'm not 100% sure if I really need one, because it turns out I looked at it and they don't have the tuning slot, which the Marauder's Mace does. So I actually have the lightning tuning on it, and that feels really good. It looks really cool too. I put a yellow crystal in it, so the lightning is in fact yellow lightning and not red or whatever. The Gamorrean axe does not have a tuning slot, so it wouldn't be able to have the lightning around it. So for now, I'm okay with just sticking with that one, especially since like I said, they're pretty much unfindable. I keep checking the GTN, they just don't show up, and yeah, it's just doesn't happen apparently. The sad thing is I swear I had one. My guess is I had one early on and I must have sold it. There was definitely a point of time in the game where, because I do a lot of alting and credits were kind of harder to come by at that point, I would sometimes find something relatively cool, and if I just wasn't going to use it reasonably soon, then I went ahead and sold it. I suppose that must be what happened to it, because I can't find it on any character where they might be. So it's all good though. We'll figure it out. So Thor's been a lot of fun, and then recently, just the other day, made one more new character just for fun. I figured, we'll just push this in as well. We'll be leveling all kinds of people all over the place, basically. And this is based on something that I've done before, but I haven't done it quite this way. So I'm doing a healer character and no damage. Like, I cannot do any direct damage with this character. I have to do it through the companion only. And I've done this before once as a smuggler. And I remembered when I did that one, I kind of got tired of it because I would just use the stealth to sort of avoid fights all the time. And yeah, I could make it through the story, certainly, and but it kind of minimizes the amount of fighting you actually have to do. So I decided to kind of up the ante a little bit. So we're doing no damage on the character. It has to be through the companion, and but we're actually doing it on an agent, but with commando abilities. So she's got the assault cannon. So first time assault cannon on an agent, which is a lot of fun too. I'm really enjoying it actually so far. It's really kind of funny because until level 7, I had no healing abilities. So I had no damage abilities and I had no healing abilities. So basically I had nothing to do but just hit the attack button and make my companion attack. And sometimes what I'll do is, when she's about to finish up one group, I will just run to another group, aggro them, and bring them back to her. So, and I've tried it with several different companions. At level 1, I had to do one of the ones that you can get at that level, so I used Shay Vizsla for a little while. Then I switched to Kaleo just because I like having a class companion. And I tried Treek, but the problem with Treek was, before the patch dropped today, Treek was just missing everything. She could not hit a single ability. She was really bugged. Like, I know that they addressed companion issues, and we'll be talking about that during the news segment. But it must have been worse with some companions than others, because Treek literally could not hit an ability. It was crazy. I actually had to run away from a level 11 critter in the woods, in the woods around Drummond Cos, because she couldn't do any damage. And then once I started healing her, it turned on me, and then it's like, well, I could just stand here, but I can't do any damage. I'm not allowed to do any damage. So I had to run away. And then, we had to swap back, and it was crazy. In 7, now I did play her a little bit today, and I did try Treek again, and it does seem to be better, but I'm not going to go with Treek as my main companion because, and I'm not sure if it's a bug or what, but it felt buggy. She was hitting with her abilities, but Treek has always had kind of long cooldowns on her abilities, and she still does. But she wasn't doing any basic attacks between them. So she would use her like 4 or so abilities that were sort of active, and then there'd be a few globals where she was doing nothing. Like she wasn't missing, she just wasn't attacking, which was weird. It feels buggy, and I'll probably try it again before I maybe report it. But anyway, so once I saw that, I was like, okay, that's really slow. So we're gonna take you away, Tariq, and we're gonna bring back. And then I tried Khalil and Shea Vizsla, and both of them seem to work normally. Like they have their abilities, but then they also fill in with like basically gray damage, just basic abilities when those abilities are on cooldown. So having a lot of fun, actually. I haven't done the agent story in a while, certainly not since 7.0. And I did it as, this is actually my first non-cosplay character in a while. So I figured, since we're doing this sort of like weird thing, we can, and I don't really have anyone in mind for it. There's not a lot of like healer characters out there in the world, like, in terms of doing a good cosplay, I feel. At least, none that grabbed me. So yeah, I just made a Zabrak, a red Zabrak, and I haven't, which is a species I really haven't done very much, because when you're doing cosplay, it tends to be human, or maybe sometimes cybernetic if they have like cybernetic parts, or if they're a character who's green, you might do a Mary Ellen. If they're that sort of thing. If they're blue, you do a Chiss, that sort of and like that. But because of that, I haven't seen a lot of Zabrak. I don't necessarily do a lot of Twi'leks, sort of that sort of thing. Oh, and I usually don't do Star Wars characters because, I don't know, it feels too easy. You know what I mean? Like, I could certainly do a Jedi because there's lots of Jedi outfits in the game, but I don't know, it just doesn't, to me, that I like doing stuff from DC, from Marvel, from other places, and so yeah. So I read Zabrak. I think she looks really cool looking. I'm really liking it, and also because it's not a cosplay, I don't feel constrained to have like one sort of perfect look for her. I'm actually trying different outfits, different guns, and so on. Now that 7.0.2's dropped, we've actually got the weapons in the outfitter. We'll be talking about that later as well, and that's actually really fun. So now, I have a couple different outfits, and now I haven't decided which ones I want, but I know I can put different guns for different outfits and stuff like that, which is pretty cool. And so I'm liking that a lot. She is, how far is she now? She just got her ship basically. And then I did a little bit, tiny bit past that where you meet Darth Jorid for the first time, and that's it. So she's pretty early on. I'm having a lot of fun, no damage at all, and she's level 16 or something like that. So she has like 2 abilities I can do in combat now. So there's a hard cast heal, which does like maybe a sixth of a health bar roughly, and has a pretty long cooldown. And then there's the free ability, which I got at level 7. I was doing nothing until level 7, but starting at level 7, I could spam that one free ability that costs nothing but your global, but hardly does any healing at all. Except it does a wonderful job of grabbing aggro, if they happen to be spread out and they haven't been hit by your companion. So, but it's one of the nice things about this is like it feels it's a very relaxing way to play, because your companion's doing all the running around fighting. You're just making sure they stay healthy, and that if you draw aggro, you stay healthy. But I'm not having to spam buttons all the time, so I can kind of like watch the fight, see if anything else is going on. I've even gone over and picked a bioanalysis node during the fight, because like we're just waiting for Khalil to finish her damage, and then check her out. Yeah, she's still fine. Maybe throw a heal on her, and it's all good. So yeah, it's definitely a lot slower way to go, but I've been surprisingly enjoying it. It has been a long time since I've done this sort of thing before, and like I said last time, I did it on a smuggler, and I ended up stealthing everything, which I cannot do now, which is kind of cool. So there we go. That's what I've been up to, and we'll move on to the tip of the week. Let me take a little water here as well. And we've got a couple tips this week. The first one is from Bo, and Bo writes, if you're doing heroics and trying to get the kill 15 with a trap charge and can't seem to find an easy way to do it, here it is. And sometimes I could see that, because if you're doing like leveling like I am, you're just kind of going to get that one during the course of it. You're going to be running into enough areas where there's the little explosives and the little, the little freezing bombs and all that sort of thing. You're going to just kind of get that during the course of a week no matter what. But if you're focused on like operations or PvP or whatever, you may not get a lot of chances to get this. So if you're in this situation, then Bo says, if you find an area where you can find, say, 8 of the 15, then what you do is you run out of and if you're in an instance, you run out of the zone, reset it, and then you run back in. And we've talked about this sort of thing before, and it is a good way to do it. You can also do this sort of thing like, this has been occasionally useful when they've had like bonuses for, killing X number of creatures, X number of sorts of creatures on these planets, like they did in Season 1. That hasn't happened so much in Season 2, but this sort of thing is sort of useful there. So if you see where there's a nice big fat group of them, you pop them, you run out of the instance, you reset the instance, and you redo it, and it'll be right back, and you're good to go. And he also mentions if you're dragging mobs to the barrel, you have to keep in mind that ranged gunners won't do it. They will stay at range, which is true. Sometimes you can trick them with line of sight issues, like if the barrel happens to be near a corner, you can aggro some people around the corner, drag them around the corner, and then pop the barrel, and that might work as well. So, but anyway, thank you, Bo. Appreciate it. And let's see. We also have one more tip just from me. And a couple of episodes ago, I talked about a tip where you go on to the other servers. If you're a subscriber, this works. You make like one character on every server, and you just log into them at least 4 times a week. You can do it every day, though, for the daily. Not that you gain too much from it, but we'll talk about that more in a sec. But at least 4 times a week. And that way, when you pick up the actual weekly login bonus, you'll actually get enough to get a level in the Seasons Advanced. And if you do it, well, the first time happens at 3, and then every 5 after that, then you can get 200 cartel coins. And if you do that, let's say you play on only one server, well, if you do that across 4 other servers, then every few weeks you're getting 800 extra cartel coins, which is pretty cool. We talked about that pretty extensively in that episode, but that's the gist of it. There's a couple more details that I found out since then by doing this some more. One is level catch up. Now that we're far enough through the season, you'll be able to find level catch up available. This isn't too exciting, but if you're on a server where you don't normally play, but you're doing the logins, sometimes you're going to get credits. So what you can do is actually build up enough credits to potentially buy in one more season reward, or one more level of the season. It costs 175,000 for one level, or 669,000 credits, a little over that, for 2. So it's really only going to be worth it for 1 for a season. But if you find yourself at the end of the season, you need that one more level, and you've been logging in daily, you might well have 175,000 credits built up. It's kind of iffy, especially if you start like right now, but if you're pretty consistent, I found like on these other servers, I'm already at or above 100,000 credits. So by the end of the season, sticking with it, we probably should have enough to, up level one more if we need one more level to get to the next 200 cartel coin season level. The other one is that if at the end of the season you find yourself one level away, with or without the credit one, it takes 100 cartel coins to gain 1 level. So if you're 1 level away from the 200 level, well, it's worth it to spend the 100 cartel coins, get the level, and then you get 200 back. So net 100 positive. So that's the other thing. So level catch-up is sort of a side thing, but it is there. The other one, though, I want to talk about as far as the seasons is the classic cartel packs. And I really focused on, the first time I did the thing, I really focused on, the cartel coins, because it's the account-wide benefit of doing seasons. Like if you log into multiple servers, you get, you advance the track for the seasons. The one thing you're really going to get is the cartel coins, because, like decorations and stuff like that, they're not account wide. They're server locked essentially. But one of the things that you can also get, and you will if you do this consistently, is you'll get far enough to start getting the classic cartel packs, the armor, the weapon, and the mount ones specifically. And when you open them, you might have a bit of an armor or a weapon or a mount that you don't have on your main played server. And what you can do then is you can equip it or unlock it for that character. And then you can then use cartel coins to unlock it for your whole account. So there is one other thing that's sort of like account wide potentially. It takes the use of cartel coins, but it is a way to get another benefit out of doing the season tracks on multiple servers. So I actually did have that happen on one of the other servers where I don't normally play. I ended up with a mount. What was it called? The Zerka Spade, and it looks like a little shovel, I guess, which is why they call it that, I suppose. It's called the Zerka Spade, and it's rather attractive, very small mount. It looks like a miniaturized spaceship, essentially, and it has a nice smooth sound to it as well. And I actually liked it a lot, so I unlocked it on that character on that server, and then I spent the cartel coins to just unlock it everywhere. And I've got it on a couple of the people I'm leveling, so been pretty happy with that as well. So there you go. The winner is obviously Bo, so thank you, Bo, for your tip, and you are the winner of a Tonfon or M83R droid pet code or an M2B9 droid code, courtesy of BioWare, plus an OotiniCast provided ultimate pack. And thank you, Bo Froley. And if you have a tip, please send it to OotiniCast@gmail.com before the next show for a chance to win the same. And there we go. We're going to skip a couple of the normal ones. The Mind Trap, we're actually going to skip. I'd prefer to talk over that with Kitty. Also, I think what we're going to end up doing is like having two sort of similar Mind Traps, and then we'll be able to sort of compare them. So we're going to really do that for next time. And same with the Cantina Talk. I don't really want to have a Cantina Talk and not be able to talk it over with Kitty a little bit. So we're going to go right to the Holo feed. And shortly after our last episode, BioWare tweeted out a little picture plus the information. Do you want to be part of the next Mass Effect, Dragon Age, or Star Wars: The Old Republic games? Come work at BioWare. And they have we're hiring. So there's actually a fair number of software development, art, game design, and audio type people that they're looking for. And several of them are SWTOR. They're specifically, like, some of them are non-game specific. So I don't know if that means that they just kind of roam between them, or maybe they're about a game that they're not willing to talk about in public yet. But it does have several SWTOR positions listed, which is pretty cool. This included concept artist, systems designer, and level designer. So there's several SWTOR specific game design parts out there, which is really cool. And interestingly, the character creature concept artist did not have any game series mentioned, which, like I said, it makes me wonder if there's like maybe a new game they're starting to work on, but they're not willing to talk about. Or, like I said, the other option is like it might be that they're just one of those, like a roaming position where it's going to work with multiple games or multiple IPs. It's pretty cool though. And I think Kitty Treats was saying, yeah, there it is. Hey, Kitty. Kitty Treats was saying, like, in Twitter, yeah, I would love to do this. So, and I think it was specifically the creature concept artist, which would be, let's face it, awesome. So anyway, if you like playing SWTOR and you're a game designer type, there are positions out there specific to SWTOR, which is really cool. All right. In terms of SWTOR specific news, there was something about the top 96 PvP rewards. Just in case someone's listening who is among that elite group, they did distribute the rewards and titles. There were some reports of discrepancies with what was received versus what was shown on the PvP leaderboards. They found that the data displayed publicly on the leaderboards were not updated to reflect the true rankings of the ranked PvP game mode. This is due to the fact that some players were disqualified through the season or ineligible from being placed on the leaderboard post-season end. So apparently they caught a few cheaters, and it allowed other people to take the top 96 spots, which, as they should, if they're not cheating, which is good. So they understand why people were confused about why some people were receiving them and some people weren't. The majority of the top rewards have been distributed correctly, and a handful of backfill rewards are being worked on as well. And let's see. And there's a little bit more to it than that, but I think that's enough for our purposes. Now, Game Update 7.0.2, they basically, right before the last show, they let us know that they were stopping the PTS for 7.0.2 to get it ready to go out. However, they worked on it really fast because Game Update 7.0.2 has actually come out as of today. So it is now live. So the highlights which they put in were weapons and outfitter, absolutely. It's the new customization functionality. You can now have one weapon or weapons for dual wielding combat styles equipped, which determine the stats applied to your character, but stamp the appearance of another weapon of the same type via outfitter. And that's pretty cool. I've tested it a little bit. It seems to work pretty much the way I'd expect it to. One interesting thing is that if you do, for any reason, remove the weapon that you have actually equipped, like for stats, then in Outfitter, it'll change the weapon to a little red square that warns you that because you don't have any weapon equipped, the stamped one won't show either. So if you unequip your weapon, it actually will unequip the weapon as far as the Outfitter is concerned as well. I assume that's to make things sort of simple so that they don't have to, I assume that just sort of makes things run smoothly, more or less. But it is a thing, so you can't not have a weapon equipped but still have the appearance of a weapon. So that's not a thing in the game. You'll have to have some sort of reasonably similar weapon actually equipped in order to actually show it in the Outfitter, which is pretty cool. Other than that, it was pretty smooth. It made a lot of sense. I just basically, I figured, okay, well, this is the one I want. In this case, I just made, because you can't, the one tricky bit about that rule is in this case, the one I wanted to stamp was the one I actually had equipped at that point, because it's modifiable and I had actually put a barrel and whatever in it. And because of that, I couldn't just put it into inventory and then stamp it, because you're not allowed to, because the box goes red because don't have anything equipped. You're also not allowed to stamp anything. And so I had to pull out another of that same weapon, and then I made sure to put the one actually into my actual stats. And then once that was fine, then I went to the Outfitter, took the duplicate and just duplicated it essentially. And actually, it was even more complicated than that, because the one I had the tuning and such. So what I did is I temporarily put the no stat one, just pulled right out of inventory, into my stats stick, stamped the correct one with the tuning and with the crystal and all that. And then once it was stamped, then I just swapped the correct one back into my actual stats. Anyway, it works. But basically, yeah, you can't. The only weird thing about that is it means you can't just have one weapon and one weapon only and still stamp it, because you're going to have something in your weapon slot in order to stamp it. Anyway, so that's Weapons and Outfitter. Double XP event is coming up. It's going to be basically 1 week, starting May 3rd, lasting till May 10th. This is a May the 5th, be with you, Star Wars Day thing, basically. And it's a week of double XP and double Valor as well. So that's coming up, not today, but a week from today. And then, in general, we've talked about some of these before, so that we don't necessarily have to go over every last detail. But again, they sort of simplified the names of the currencies for 7.0. The medals of commendations are now called Conquest Commendations because they come from Conquest. The aquatics are now called Daily Resource matrices. Hazardous matter catalysts are now OP1 because they come from operations. Thrisian production accelerants are now WZ1 because they're Warzone related. Decurion isotope stabilizers are now FP1s because they come from flashpoints. I'm fine with that, actually. But it's all good. I understand some people thought that was kind of a dumbing down, but frankly, I'd rather have it just at a glance know exactly what it is, personally. Currency is no longer lost when opening a currency lockbox while the player is at the weekly cap. Instead, there's a message: you have exceeded the weekly limit, informing that the limit has been reached, and then the lockbox returns to the inventory, which is great, especially for things like, say, tech points, which will be a little bit easier in 7.0.2, but are still not the easiest things in the world to get, especially since you need 6,500 for your implants. Let's see. Fixed an issue where companions were missing attacks, taunts, and heals, as well as some of their stats. And like I said, so Treek now was definitely hitting with her abilities, wherein the day before the patch, she was missing everything, so that is at least partly fixed. Like I said, it felt a little weird with Treek because she was using her abilities correctly, but didn't seem to be filling in with auto attack damage at all. So I'm not sure what was up with that. But the companions definitely felt stronger. Like, it felt more like they should. You know what I mean? Like, the companions were not taking like forever to take out enemies and so forth on my new character who's only doing damage with companions. Let's see. Updated. I love this one. Updated the description of the following companions' effects to remove strength, aim, willpower, and cunning missions, as those no longer exist. Mark of power and forced valor, which I kind of love because strength, aim, willpower, and cunning have all been gone for a good long time, and yet there's always those one little corners where things like that hide, and they just don't get quite removed for a long, long time. But that's now been removed. Let's see. One thing that was supposed to be fixed but apparently hasn't, and I was able to confirm that, is in the preview. So if you're previewing armor, especially like a helmet or boots, something towards the top or bottom of your character, it used to be that you can slide your character around so you could then zoom in on just the helmet or zoom in on the boots or whatever. And since 7.0 dropped, that has not been available. You can zoom in and out, and you can rotate your character, but you can't move up and down. That was supposed to be fixed in 7.0.2, but it has not. And they have mentioned that they're aware that it does not seem to be fixed the way they thought it would be. So that is not yet a thing, but I'm assuming that probably means it's pretty close. My guess is that, if they've done enough work on it that it was sort of like in the patch notes and they expected it to be fixed, my guess is they'll have it done pretty soon. But unfortunately, it's just not there right now. There's a lot of bug fixes, a lot of little changes, basically, like you'd expect for something 2 patches into an expansion. Improved the readability of the item recovery number from the inventory window of the character sheet. So that's anything that helps readability is always good for me. Emotes window now correctly displays a list of locked and unlocked emotes when redeeming an emote from inventory window when the emotes window is opened. Let's see. Healing ability tooltips are now correctly updated based on the level scaling. I haven't really been able to test that. I haven't been doing a lot of healing, and then the one healing character I've got hasn't really been level scaled at all. She's been just at level, like at a normal level for the planet. Let's see. Dragging an unbound weapon to an occupied offhand slot no longer automatically equips the weapon to the main hand, which is probably good, especially if it would bind it. I'm not sure if that was happening or if it would still give you the warning or not, but if it wouldn't, then it's definitely good that they fixed it. And even so, it's really nice to have it that fixed. It is, like I say, it is now possible to drag the character's position in the preview window. It does show in the 7.0.2 notes, but they have confirmed that that is actually not true yet, and it's not fixed. But clearly, it's in their sights. Fix the issue where the armor values were sometimes incorrect when shifting the level of a player. This occurred if the player was being shifted to an item ring that did not exist for the quality of the item they were wearing. I kind of love that. It's like, I guess there must have been some weird edge cases where like you had like one piece of gear that was maybe like way below or way above the average item rating that you had at that level, and therefore it was just kind of like breaking the system. The damage shown in value shown in the character sheet is no longer displaying it higher than intended. Players will notice that the value has been reduced by roughly half, but this is a display change and has no impact on the damage they deal. I'm not sure exactly what that. I was still kind of getting used to like the new mass, because every time they do an expansion, the amount of like health you have, the amount of damage you do, it always goes up. Not exactly exponentially, but, by quite a bit. And I was still kind of getting used to it, so I'm not sure that's going to bother me. But anyway, it's nice that it actually reflects what's actually really happening, which is good. Yeah, let's see. Flink is saying, not sure why the snipers, slingers, and operative scoundrels all got AoE damage reductions removed. Yeah, we'll talk about that. It's coming up here pretty soon here. Well, we can talk about it now. Because there's a lot of like little mini things that got fixed that we don't necessarily need to talk about. Let's see. They're basically what they did is there's a lot of, like for example in Sage, Balance Sage's center point. When AoE damage is triggered, it no longer hits the primary target twice. And same thing with like Madness, Eternal Torment. When AoE damage is triggered, it no longer hits the primary target twice. Creeping End, same thing. And basically it looked like most, if not all, sort of AoE damage abilities that actually have a primary target, as opposed to like ones that are strictly ground-based AoE, but ones that actually are like doing damage around a primary target. Apparently for most, and practically all apparently, abilities, for whatever reason, it was hitting the primary target twice, which was not basically was not intended, and that's why they're removing it. I don't think they mean it to be a balance thing specifically. It may be that like depending on how things roll out, they might realize that, now these specs that have a lot of these abilities are not doing enough damage anymore, and they might have to rebalance. And so Flink might be correct in that sense for sure. But apparently there's something about AoE abilities. Maybe under the hood they were kind of changing slightly how they worked, or maybe they just realized that this was happening. And this was just the time they decided to, that they ended up fixing it. But for whatever reason, the primary target was getting hit twice by the ability, essentially, which was just not intended. So they're getting rid of it. So again, hopefully that's not going to cause a balance issue. If it does, I hope they fix it fast. I do like the fact that like some of these are like pretty serious, but missing buffs. For example, the Scrapper Scoundrel Pugnacity is supposed to imply a 20% crit damage buff. Apparently it wasn't. Now it does. Let's see. Fix an issue with aim assist ability mod for Saboteur, so it properly gives the correct critical hit chance bonus. So it's always nice when they find bugs like this and actually fix them so things are doing as intended. And in crew skills, what was interesting, corrected an issue preventing the creation of GSI Triangulation Enhancer Mark II. Didn't realize that was a bug in the game. It's been a while since I've really done a lot of GSI stuff, so I actually kind of forgot that I think it's a Cybertech ability, pretty sure it is, could actually make these little triangulation enhancers. It's kind of cool, but I kind of forgot that was a thing. But apparently now you can make them where you couldn't before. Let's see. in the flashpoints, reduce the health and damage for all enemies in the following flashpoints: Traitor Among the Chiss, Crisis on Bora, Lost Island, and Anathema Conspiracy. So that's basically all the flashpoints for... I always call it the Traitors Trilogy, but it has an official name. That plus Iocath is called Fractured Alliances. So all the Fractured Alliances flashpoints plus Lost Island on Veteran and Master mode have been reduced. Health and damage for all enemies. So that's good. I did notice that there have been a few difficult flashpoints in the game, but I haven't been doing too many Veteran and Master mode ones. So I haven't noticed it all that every time. It was mostly like a couple of times I grouped up with Lord Meltza, and we just ended up, there was like one flashpoint where we just basically couldn't finish it. It was really nasty. Can't remember which one it was though. It was not recent. It was like a month ago or something like that, or maybe more. Reduce the health of all enemies in Spirit of Vengeance solo mode. Completing any Activity Finder flashpoint now correctly grants 2 points toward Technological Advancements mission. And a couple of other ones. Essalus, now completing Essalus now correctly grants credit for Technological Advancements mission, story, and veteran mode. Runes of Null, Sahar's collar is no longer clipping through the neck during cinematics. And fix the visual issue on Apex. Aran fixes teeth and horns during Runes of Null flashpoint. Unfortunately, nothing specifically about the end game fight. They have said that for the most part they haven't, they've talked about how there's like the workaround. You basically try to stay around the outside, but apparently the underlying problem still hasn't been fixed, apparently. So there we go. And let's see, in operations, they sort of rebalanced how the tech fragments worked, so that you didn't have to get to the end boss quite so much just to get to the end. For example, story mode operations, now boss 1 will be 150, then boss 2 300, then 500, 500, and then 550 for a total of 2,000 tech fragments. And this way it is still skewed towards being higher the further you go, but it's not like really making you finish it. And if for some reason your group cannot finish it, which absolutely does happen, you're not completely, just wasting your time, basically. And Scum and Villainy is no longer possible to avoid the effects of Sandstorm during the Dashrud encounter during Scum and Villainy. I didn't know there was a way to avoid the effects of the Sandstorm. It pretty much affects the entire area when you're doing that one boss. So I'm not sure how people are avoiding it, but it's no longer possible, apparently. And let's see. So one of the things that makes tech points a little bit easier is tech fragments rewarded from individual, daily, and heroic missions are increased to 30, up from 10. We have talked about this before, but now that it's live, I'm happy to mention it one more time. Tech fragments rewarded from personal conquest goal is increased to 500, up from 250. Players will be, and kind of in some ways the most important, players will be able to exchange extra conquest commendations directly for tech fragments at the Spoils of War vendor at the rate of 50 for 50. Which is really nice because I've been banging up against the 999 cap, which is also going up, by the way, but it has been a 999 cap since 7.0 dropped, and I've basically been just banging my head against that cap the whole time because except when you're directly buying an upgrade on the fleet, you're pretty much not using those, and so you're just capping out all the time. But that won't happen so much anymore, which is great. Brunemark is no longer hostile to Republic players during the Alliance Alert Last of His Kind, so you can actually now get Brunemark, even if you're Republic, it's always been designed so you can actually... it's one of those rare ones where you do have the chance to get a companion that's not necessarily from your class story. Let's see... elite droid enemies are no longer spawning during the Regnant encounter during Ruins of Null Flashpoint solo and story mode, so that's good. Rebalance the Purifier droids encounter in Chapter 4 where Dreams Die, Knights of the Eternal Throne. I'm going to be getting to that on Corbin pretty soon, but I'm trying to remember exactly what the Purifier droids look like. Rebalance them. Okay. Oh, okay. Purifier. You're right. That's on Iocath, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. I'm not sure exactly which ones they're talking about, but apparently it's been rebalanced. And let's see. After you defeat Ares in Chapter 5, players are now teleported to the Odessans Alliance camp headquarters properly after defeating Ares. That's good. The dialogue line in the cinematic for converting tech fragments now mentions the correct amount of tech fragments required. That's interesting. Not sure which cinematic they're referring to. Player characters with Scoundrel or Power Tech as the active combat style no longer draw an invisible weapon in the cinematics of Eve of Destruction mission. Yeah, drawing the invisible weapon as a Power Tech, that's been happening on my 2 Power Techs, like, a lot. Not just in whatever mission that is, but regularly. It tends to happen, like, right when I log onto that character, and then eventually they'll mount up or they'll do something else that sort of makes it go away, and then it never seems to happen again. I'm not sure what's going on with that. And player characters with Assassin as active combat style now correctly use a dual saber during some cinematics. Always nice to have these little ones as well. Let's see. Go ahead and find that one. Oh yeah, and this one is interesting to me. Koth's crew is no longer hanging out on the gravestone before being recruited in Chapter 4, Gravestone Knights of the Fallen Empire. Yeah, because before you even get to Asylum, Koth's crew is there, you know, the ones playing golf and the other ones are in the various rooms, and it's been a bug for a while, like a long while, like multiple expansions, I think, at this point. And yeah, they finally nailed it down, and apparently that's not going to happen anymore. So there we go. It's gone. Arenas and war zones. /duck command can now be used in PvP arenas and war zones. They talked about this on the last episode, I believe it was. They mentioned that there was some sort of exploit where they were some sort of gain was happening by doing /duck. What it was they didn't make clear, but it was some sort of, they considered it an exploit. So they just removed the ability to /duck in war zones temporarily. Now that's back. You can now /duck in PvP arenas and war zones. Level shift is now correctly scaling gear down in PvP matches, and they're also now altering the following PvP missions to allow progress on loss, which is basically all of them. March them down, no quarter, united we stand, zero tolerance, conspicuous valor, spoils of war, and the war front. So ranked and unranked. They now allow progress on wins. Wins will count 3 times, and losses will count 1. So this is a sort of in between, because they've tried it both ways. For a long time in the game, if you lost, you lost, but you advanced 1. But if you won, you advanced 2 times 2. Then, more recently, they got rid of that, and you had to win in order to advance at all, which I found very frustrating, because I definitely played some PvP and had some PvP days, and I would have, maybe there was a group who was grouping up on, and I just wasn't in that group, and so I was always against them, or maybe I was having a bad day or whatever, just not able to advance those missions at all, and it was really painful to do 5-6 war zones and not gain anything towards your daily or weekly. So now loss will be 1. Wins, however, will count 3 times. So they're still trying to make it so that people are really trying, because you will definitely gain a lot more if you win. But at least if you're stuck in a bad situation, you can at least eventually get through these missions, which is good. All right. Let's see. We've got a few other things. They increased the amount of war zone things that you get to 110, up from 55 for Spoils of War, as well as the tech fragments, 1,500 up from 450, and daily matrices up 20 up from 8. Unranked daily mission rewards for March Them Down and No Quarter. The tech fragments is 150 instead of 75. So this is another place where tech fragments are going to be a little easier to get, which is great. Reduced ranked weekly rewards. They slightly reduced those, but not by as much as they made the unranked ones go up. So it was 2,000 for the weekly. It goes down to 1,750. Changes made to Galactic Starfighter rewards. Tech fragments from weekly is down 850, down from 1,000. So 850 down from 1,000 for the weekly for GSF. And process isotope stabilizers has been removed as a reward and added to Jawa vendors for exchange. And then the cost of the OEM 37 and RPM 13 on the Spoils of War vendor has been reduced to 4,000 down from 10,000. So these are those items that you need for the new higher level augments, which I don't have any of currently, and it's going to still take quite a while to get. But at least it doesn't take virtually your entire cap. Like, it used to be 10,000 when the cap was 10,000. You had to be completely capped out to get one of these things. Then they increased the cap to 11,000 just to allow a little wiggle room, but it was still 10,000, and it basically took a long time, even in 6.0, let alone 7.0, when with tech points a lot harder to come by. Now the cost has been reduced to 4,000, so there's going to be more of those augments coming out, I'm pretty sure, because of that. The required OEM 37 and RPM 13s to create a CM 1337 has been reduced to 5, and 5 of each, down from 7 OEM 37s and 14 RPM 13s. So it's also making them cheaper from that angle as well. And that's definitely going to also mean a lot more of the higher end augments, which is pretty cool. Those augments will be hanging around, and at some point crew skills will be updated, and those will probably be updated. Augments will probably be updated as well. Not guaranteed, but they have pretty much every other time. So yeah, but now the improved augments are going to be not just a lot easier to come by, although still difficult, and still, especially if you're doing it like solo and you're not just buying a bunch of, spending tons and tons of credits on them or whatever, still difficult to come by, still slow to come by for sure. Adjustment made on Conquest Commendations. The currency cap of Conquest Commendations has been raised to 2,500, up from 999. This is the one that I was pretty much banging my head against. So now it's really nice, because I actually got some from opening up weekly Conquest stuff and doing dailies and all that stuff, and we're not just losing those into the void anymore, which is great. So the cap for those is now 2,500, up from 999. The weekly cap for those has been raised to 1,500, up from 999. So you can gain more per week as well. So you can gain up to 1,500. And again, you can now also, if you're not using them for anything else, you can now exchange them for tech fragments at the Spoils of War vendor. Let's see. For Galactic Seasons, players who didn't receive the Slice Cybernetic Visual Enhancement Implants prior to 7.0.1 fix can now claim it back from the rewards track. So if that was a thing for you, you can now give that a whirl. The tooltip for the Galactic Season token from the Galactic Season login rewards window now correctly disappears when moving the mouse away. I love little stuff like that. And all right. Let's see. See what here. There's some known issues essentially for 7.0.2. The plate for Hypercrate Ultimate Cartel Pack shows times 10 instead of times 30. However, players correctly receive 30 packs when purchasing the item. So that's a thing. Let's see. Players. Let's see. While in PvP instance, inspecting a player of the opposite faction on your team shows your faction inside the window. Let's see. Weapons in the GTN display 0 damage in the tooltip. So, bugs have been coming up now. Let's see. In rare cases, a die does not apply properly on an armor piece in the gear tab. That's obviously not good. Players can use any of the following workarounds for the die to be applied properly. Transition to another area, click the gear as an outfit box, or unequip and then equip the item again. So Apparently, what they're saying is apparently the die's not going away, at least, because otherwise these workarounds wouldn't work. Apparently the die is just not applying, but it's not going away either. So apparently, if you're just not able to apply it, you either try it transitioning to another area, clicking the gear as an outfit box, or unequip it and then equip an item again. So hopefully those will then allow you to die it properly. And let's see. Bugs currently tracked by the team. Well, there's some of these. Let's see. Droids on Manon cannot be harvested with the scavenging crew skill. There's always bugs that they're working on. Let's see. Some of these we don't really need to worry about too much. The dice module slot tooltip is reversed with the amplifier slot in the modification window. So a couple little weird bugs there. Let's see. Malchus's command chamber is not centered when viewed in the preview window. Yeah, that's sort of been a thing, and until we can actually slide it around, it's not going to be easily fixed either. Companions are shown with weapons in the companion window, even if there's no weapon equipped. So eventually, they're trying to make that so that gets updated correctly. That's pretty cool. Companion stats don't change when selecting another role on the ship. That's interesting. I haven't actually tried to select another role for one of my companions when we're on our own ship. I've actually looked at them and like I've even changed out their armor and stuff like that a little bit, but I haven't actually tried changing their role on the ship. Apparently right now it's not changing their stats. I presume that when you leave the ship and then pull out that companion as an active companion, it would then update and it would be okay. I don't think that sort of bug is actually hanging around through that sort of thing. At least it doesn't mention it, and I would assume that it's not going to. But if it is, let us know. Let's see. The character camera in the preview window cannot be dragged. Yeah, we've been talking about that. Let's see. There's not anti-rad injectors. Okay, so the black hole daily mission. The anti-rad injector is removed from the mission inventory when the black hole daily mission is auto-completing. This bug is preventing players from completing the mission without taking damage unless they use quick travel. Right, I've noticed that myself. I didn't really consider that a bug, though. So what's happening is, this is on the Empire side only, really. On the, I think... Yeah, because on the Empire side, the object is just part of the mission. Like you show it on the mission, you get the little clickable item next to your thing, and then it just kind of goes away. But the thing is, on the Republic side, you're pretty much going to click that thing right before you go click on the actual item, so it doesn't really matter. But the thing is, on the Empire side, you got these 4 things to click on. You have to go through this puddle of radiation, so you have the anti-radiation stuff going to get through this rather long puddle. And what happens is, if you do the 4th one, and then you don't immediately get out of there, the mission auto completes, and then you can't reapply it, which means you're kind of stuck on the other side of this. If that happens, you're kind of stuck on the other side of this rather long, rather dangerous radiation pool. You can quick travel out of there. I was able to actually, before I figured out the workaround, and I'll tell you about that in a sec, the other thing you can do is, if you have any stacks left, you can rocket boost. You do that as long as you can, and then as soon as it pops you out of it, then use any movement abilities you can to get out of there. And then once you're out of the poison on the other side, immediately go into your out of combat heal. And it also helps if your companion is trying to heal you too. You can survive it then, but it's not easy. It's nasty. It's a lot of damage. So, but the better way, if you're doing black hole on the Empire side, when you're about to do the last of the 4 little clickable switches or whatever they are that you have to click to actually finish the mission, make sure sometimes you might have to unclick the buff. If you have any stacks of the buff left, just unclick it to make it go away. re-click it on your mission one so you get a brand new one, both for time and also for number of stacks, because you'll get 10 stacks and it'll reset the timer. Then finish the mission, and then you'll have plenty of time and stacks to get across the poison without running out again. So that's, for me, that would be the big workaround, is just make sure you've redone your stacks before you actually finish that the fourth thing of that mission. Otherwise, yeah, you can kind of get stuck on the other side of the big the big poison puddle. Let's see. Technological attachments. Let's see. Oh, players can't use their ability bar after being polymorphed into a droid during the Manon storyline Imperial, preventing them from progressing the mission storyline. The current workaround, click on Control U twice to reload the interface. And that's all. That's, if you have anything that's sort of UI related, that's often like the go-to. Control U is your default for resetting your UI, and just give that a whirl. That's often the right one to do. Let's see. Players are being teleported to the wrong location after being polymorphed into a cargo loader droid in the Manon storyline Imperial, preventing them from progressing the storyline. Current workaround, transport to the fleet and then launch the mission again. So apparently it won't happen every time, fortunately. Let's see. There are too many purifier droids during Chapter 4. We talked about that one. So apparently that's what's happening, is there's too many purifier droids preventing players from progressing to the next step. Yeah, where dreams die. Is that during that big ambush? Like you just meet up with Vet, and then like Vet and some of your other companions are there, and you're all sort of fighting this giant ambush from 3 different directions. If that's where the extra purifier droids are coming, yeah, that would be nasty, because that fight's not the easiest in the world. Even on story mode, you can technically die to it if you're not careful. Yeah, so so apparently that one's going on way too long. If that's where it is, I'm kind of thinking it might be too. There are other places, I think, where there are purifier droids, so I'm not sure if it's one of those either. But yeah, it's probably that ambush scene, and that would make it really nasty. Let's see. Isotope stabilizers unintentionally drop the same quantity for operations in story, veteran, and master modes. The same amount of isotope stabilizers dropped for 16-player and 8-player difficulties, so that's a thing right now that they're working on. Season objectives appear as conquest objectives in chat, but that's just for chat. That shouldn't be too big a deal. That's just a UI thing. Shouldn't actually affect how it actually works. The season timer disappears when the Galactic Seasons window is displayed. Interesting. And let's see. Loadouts. Here we go. There's no warning message when attempting to sell items saved into a loadout. So right now, watch out for that. The character model in the preview does not update or refresh to reflect the correct outfitter appearance when switching between loadouts in the loadout tab. So apparently they're going to try to make that happen as well, but it hasn't happened yet. When changing discipline, a warning dialog does not specify the name of the loadout affected, so be very careful with your loadouts, because you can, yeah, if you save it to the wrong loadout, or if you change your loadouts without saving the one that you were in that you wanted to have saved, it can, it can be a pain in the butt to go get it all fixed out again. Closing the loadout naming window with X. The X button when creating a new loadout creates a new loadout instead of simply closing the window. Didn't know that was a thing, but okay. Activating a loadout saved with broken gear will fail to equip it on the character, and no warning message will be displayed. So, yeah, I haven't recently broken my gear. That usually there's enough vendors around, and you just sort of repair it with credits, and usually credits aren't too much of an issue nowadays. But if it is an issue for you, if you're like a newer player or you're free to play or whatever, maybe you're running out of credits, make sure you're repairing the gear enough that it's not going to affect your loadouts. So because that's a thing right now. Let's see. There's some event ones, but yeah, we're worried about it right now. One of them's out Feast of Prosperity. That just means they're still looking at it, but they haven't actually, because the feast isn't up right now. That shouldn't be a thing. Let's see, and there are still several issues in the Void Star Warzone. The round timer is ending before it runs out, resulting in an early end of the match. That's not fun. Defenders can be pulled back over the bridge after respawning on the other side. Okay, that shouldn't be a thing either. The bridge is supposed to be where the defenders are supposed to, when a defender gets killed, they respawn but further on, which means eventually the offensive team should be able to get the bridges because there won't be any defenders left because they're all on the other side of the bridge. But yeah, I guess if there's someone who can like do the friendly pull, apparently that's sometimes happening. Characters that use phase walk, sorcerer or Jedi Sage, are sent back to the cast position if force push reaches them in between the cast and the teleport of phase walk. Interesting. So in other words, it basically prevents it from happening. And let's see. And right now, at least, players on Steam and BitRaider will not be able to see SWTOR's Disorder trailer in-game. It will be available in the next build. All right. And we sort of talked about everything else. Like they did a special thing to acknowledge that they know that the character preview still, you cannot slide your character up and down. Your character cannot be dragged. And they did have a special update just about bringing weapons into the outfitter, but we've already talked about that a fair bit. Let's see if there's anything else. Yeah, it's exactly what we've already talked about. I'm really happy that the weapons are now in the outfitter. Obviously, this kind of fixes the endgame issue where, because endgame gear is no longer modifiable or no longer based on modifications, you couldn't therefore just choose a cartel modified weapon and just move all your mods into it anymore to get the right look. But now you don't need to because you just use the weapons in the outfitter, which is great. That's obviously how they wanted it to be in the first place, and now it is. Definitely pretty excited about that. Like I said, I've already kind of used it some, and I'm definitely going to be using it some more. And also we have one force feedback, and this is from DL Smoothwolf, who's also in the chat. And DL Smoothwolf writes, "Hello OotiniCast, I have yet to test my favorite lightsabers and blasters, but I will sometime soon. I think it's been answered already, but what are the recommended crew skills to quickly earn credits?" And I don't have a tip of the week today, but I will have one for the next one. May the force be with you, DL Smoothwolf. All right, DL Smoothwolf. Well, let's see. Recommended crew skills to quickly earn credits. Right. There really isn't a crew skill in the game that won't earn you credits. So if you're talking about quickly, though, and again, quickly can mean kind of different things. But let's say, first of all, everything that's gathering, you can always sell it on the GTN. And it sells pretty well nowadays. I mean, there's a lot of credits sloshing around the game. No matter what your gathering one is, whether it's bioanalysis or scavenging or any of those, or whether it's one of the ones that you send out on missions, like underworld trading or diplomacy, you can always just turn those around and just sell them for credits on the GTN. And that's, if you're talking about quick, that's probably one of the quickest ways to do it. If you're looking for something that's a little more juicy, where you can really make a lot of credits, a couple of things that I would recommend looking at are, first of all, any of the augments are selling really well right now. Now, this might change because we did have the change to the price of the improved augments, but as far as I can tell right now, people are still buying the regular augments because the advanced ones are still so hard to get that the price is really, really, really crazy high. So you can, if you're doing any of the crafting that has the augments available to them, you just basically level those up. You do them again and again. You dismantle the greens and then the blues until you get to the purples, which is the highest level. And you just start making the purple ones. The purple ones require the embers, 5 of them, plus a bunch of the other stuff. They're expensive to make, but they also sell for, I've seen anywhere from 20 to 40 to even a little bit higher than that, 40 million credits. So if you're looking for like objects that where you can make something and then end up with a lot of credits just for even one of them, let alone when you crit and get two of them, which is feels real good when it happens. The purple augments have been really good in this expansion so far. You can also make augment kits on pretty much most of the crafting as well. I don't think Cybertech has it available, but yeah, but a lot of the other ones do. So the augment kits are also needed because people have new sets of gear, and every time they get an upgrade at endgame, like maybe they're 326, but if they're operatives, and then they turn in their 326 and they get a 328 or a 330 or whatever, then they're gonna that new piece doesn't have an augment kit slot anymore, and they need an augment kit for that augment slot. And if they're gonna put in they're presumably removing the augment before they do the upgrade. Please remember to do that. But anyway, once you get the new piece, you need another kit. And so there's a lot of kits kind of floating around. Kits are a little bit easier to make because anything that's sort of level 75 gear will give you, when you dismantle it, then it will give you one kit part, essentially it's called. You need 10 of them to make one augment kit. So you need a fair bit of it, but it's all green stuff that you can make relatively easily as soon as you hit endgame on any of the crafting. And so you can just make a bunch of those, make a few of your other things that you need for the pieces. You'll see what it takes, and then you can make augment kits. And augment kits sell. I've been selling them for about 2.5 million credits each, and they're pretty easy to make. They really are. Finally, you can do biochem. Biochem works really well as well. You don't need to have anything special. You don't necessarily need the embers, which makes this a little easier. Although augment kits don't need embers either. It's just the actual augments that need them. But if you are doing biochem, you can sell. I've been selling a lot of the purple med packs, just because if someone's like an operations person but they don't have alts and their main thing isn't biochem, then they need the purple med packs, and they sell really well. On the low end, they sell for about 200,000 each, which is a lot, and I've had them sell for as much as occasionally higher, but it seems to be really rare nowadays. But right now, they sell pretty regularly for almost 500,000 per med pack, which is a lot. I mean, given the fact that you might need one per boss fight, basically, that can add up really fast. But they do sell, and they've sold regularly ever since the start of 7.0 at that level. And even before then, they were selling for pretty much that level as well. It's just because there's some operations people and who just need them but don't want to craft them themselves. And there you go. So I would say, biochem is kind of one of the simpler ones to do. You can also, along the way, you can also make stems, which sell reasonably well. I haven't done enough of it to remember what the current prices are. You can also make adrenals. So all those are kind of easily craftable. You don't need the special embers, which are hard to come by. On the other hand, if you really want those big influxes of cash, then yeah, making the augments has been really good for me too. They all seem to sell in kind of the same range. I before the 7.0 dropped, it looked like accuracy was going to be the big one that was going to be hard to come by, but they changed the gearing enough that that's not so true anymore. But accuracy ones do sell reasonably well, but I've been selling other ones as well. And yeah, like I said, anywhere from the 20s millions to the mid 40s, which is a lot of credits for, making one thing, even if it does take 5 embers. So there you go. Yeah. And of course, yeah, you can, there's other things you can do too. If you're cybernetic, you can either, you can make the bombs, the freeze bombs, and then sell them to PvPers. I don't know what the current rate is on those. Cybernetic people also can make the on-rail ship upgrades, on-rail ship mission ship upgrades, which is kind of fun to do. Not a huge money spinner, but it does some things. And in addition, you can also make earpieces and stuff like that, and what you can do is just make the green ones and then delete them. And even though I don't think you can make augment kits on Cybertech, as far as I know, you can make the earpieces and then delete them to get the kit parts, and then you can just sell the kit parts. Those won't be quite as much as the finished product, but they should sell pretty well, and from what I've seen, they usually do. So there you go. I hope that helps, and if you have any further questions, of course, just I'd be happy to go over that. And that's a show. If you like to play with us in the Utini Knights Guild on the Republic side of the Satele Shan server, or in our Guild on the Empire side, do a /C join Utini to join the Utini channel. Then let us know you're a fan of the show. You can email questions and comments about the show to OotiniCast@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter using @OotiniCast. You can find contact details for us on our website, OotiniCast.com, which includes how to subscribe using iTunes, Stitcher, and the rest. We record the show live bi-weekly on Tuesdays, 4 p.m. Pacific, by streaming at twitch.tv/OotiniCast. Our theme song is Doomsday by Jean-Paul Zogby. And thank you to the chat room, and we hope that Kitty feels well soon, and here we go. Thanks for coming. Okay, and we'll do a little Raiderino here. Let's see, I have to get over to the creator dashboard properly here, go to the manage stream, see what we got here. Where is it? Okay. And yeah, Zam's up. Let's say hi to Zam. And thank you for coming. Hopefully Kitty will be feeling better. His voice apparently is really thrashed, so I wouldn't be surprised if it takes a day or two before he's able to stream again. But I certainly hope that he feels better to do it tomorrow. So have a good one, and here we go. All right. Okay, and right now we're stopping the stream, stopping the recording.